The morning fog rolled over the green mountains of Jeju Island as Hae-yeon Kim walked through her coffee farm. The sun was just beginning to rise, painting the sky in soft orange colors. She stopped to touch one of the coffee plants, her fingers gentle against the dark green leaves. These plants were her family's treasure, grown with care for 3 generations. At that exact moment, on the other side of the world, bright lights filled the sky over New York, London, and Seoul. Giant ships, each one as big as a small city, appeared above Earth's major cities. The news spread quickly across the planet through phones, television, and the internet. Aliens had finally arrived. Hae-yeon learned about the aliens' arrival like everyone else, through her phone's constant buzzing of news alerts. She sat on her wooden porch, drinking her morning coffee from a simple blue cup, and watched the news on her tablet. The aliens called themselves the Galactic Federation, and they had come to welcome Earth into their community of space-traveling civilizations. "How interesting," she said quietly, taking another sip of her perfectly brewed coffee. The steam rose from her cup as she watched more news reports come in. The Federation sent their cultural ambassador, Do-jin Lee, to Earth. He looked human in many ways, but his silver-tinted skin and completely black eyes showed his alien nature. The Federation had chosen him because they had studied Earth and thought his Korean-like appearance would help humans feel comfortable. Do-jin stood before the United Nations, his silver skin gleaming under the bright lights. "Earth has achieved basic faster-than-light travel capabilities," he said in perfect English. "This qualifies your planet for Level 2 status in the Galactic Federation. We are here to guide your development." The way he said it made Earth sound like a child who had just learned to walk. Many world leaders in the room shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The Federation set up their main embassy in Seoul, South Korea. They chose Seoul because it was a modern city, but still had strong connections to its ancient culture. The embassy building seemed to grow overnight, a tall, crystal-like structure that changed colors in the sunlight. It stood out against Seoul's modern skyline like a jewel from another world. Hae-yeon watched all of this from her peaceful farm. Every morning, she still followed the same routine she had learned from her grandmother. She would wake before sunrise, check her coffee plants, and then carefully prepare her morning brew. While the rest of the world rushed to learn about alien technology and culture, she focused on the perfect temperature for her coffee water and the exact timing of the brew. 3 months after first contact, Hae-yeon's friend Mek-young called her. Mek-young worked as a secretary at the new Federation embassy. "Hae-yeon, you won't believe how these aliens act," Mek-young said, sounding frustrated. "They think everything about Earth is primitive. Even our best technology makes them laugh. And our food. They say it's too simple for their advanced tastes." Hae-yeon listened while she cleaned her coffee grinder. "They sound very proud," she said simply. "Proud? They're impossible," Mek-young continued. "Yesterday, one of their scientists said Earth was only good for its location. They think we're just a convenient stop between more important worlds." The Federation's opinion of Earth became clearer with each passing day. They saw Earth as a useful but unimpressive world. Earth had basic space travel, yes, but no significant achievements in Federation terms. Earth's culture was quaint, but underdeveloped according to their reports. Earth's technology was functional, but inefficient. Do-jin Lee, the cultural ambassador, had to host many diplomatic meetings at the Seoul embassy. Important aliens from across the galaxy would visit Earth, look around with barely hidden boredom, and then leave quickly. They treated Earth like a small town they had to pass through on their way to somewhere more exciting. One morning, 6 months after first contact, Hae-yeon received an official letter. The Federation was mapping Earth's agricultural resources, and her coffee farm had appeared in their scans. They wanted to send someone to inspect her farm, probably to see if the land could be used for something they considered more valuable. Hae-yeon agreed to the inspection, but set one condition. They would have to visit in the morning and share a cup of coffee with her. The Federation official who called to arrange the visit seemed confused by this request, but agreed. The next week, A Federation transport ship landed in the field near her farm. Hei-yun was already awake, as always, preparing her morning coffee. She used her favorite beans, the ones from plants her grandmother had first grown. The brewing process was like a dance she had performed thousands of times, heating the water to exactly the right temperature, grinding the beans to perfect consistency, and timing the brew just right. 3 Federation officials stepped out of their ship. They wore elegant uniforms that seemed to flow like liquid metal. The leader introduced himself as Chief Inspector Taiwan. Like Du Jin, he had silver skin and black eyes, but his face showed the same boredom they had all come to expect from Federation visitors. "Ms. Kim," he said formally, "we are here to evaluate your agricultural facility." Hei-yun bowed politely. "Welcome to my farm," she said. "Please, first share a cup of coffee with me. Then we can discuss whatever you want." The Federation officials looked at each other with slight confusion, but followed her to her porch. The morning fog was just starting to lift, and the first rays of sunlight made the dew on the coffee plants sparkle. Hei-yun served each official a cup of her fresh coffee in simple blue cups, just like the one she used every morning. The rich aroma rose with the steam, filling the air around them. Chief Inspector Taiwan lifted his cup, probably just trying to be polite. But when the scent reached him, his expression changed. His black eyes widened slightly. The other 2 officials noticed his reaction and lifted their cups as well. What is this smell?" Taiwan asked, his usual bored tone replaced by genuine curiosity. "This is coffee," Hei-yun said simply. "Please, drink while it's hot." The 3 officials took their first sips at the same time. The effect was immediate and dramatic. Taiwan's silver skin actually seemed to glow brighter. One of the other officials made a sound that might have been a gasp of surprise. "This is incredible," Taiwan said, staring at his cup as if it contained liquid gold. "I have visited 2,342 worlds in my career. I have never experienced anything like this." Hei-yun smiled softly and sipped from her own cup. "Would you like to learn about my coffee farm now?" she asked. The agricultural inspection turned into something very different. The 3 officials spent the entire morning asking questions about coffee: how it was grown, how it was processed, how it was prepared. They recorded everything, Hei-yun said, and took samples of her coffee beans. Before they left, Chief Inspector Taiwan turned to Hei-yun. His formal manner had completely disappeared. "Ms. Kim, would you be willing to provide coffee for a diplomatic function at the embassy next week? I believe our trade minister should experience this. Coffee." Hei-yun agreed, but with one condition: she would prepare the coffee herself, in her own way. Taiwan quickly accepted. That evening, Hei-yun received another call from her friend Mi-kyung. "Hei-yun, what did you do to those Federation officials?" Mi-kyung asked, sounding amazed. They came back to the embassy and went straight to Ambassador Du Jin's office. They were actually excited about something from Earth. "I've never seen Federation officials act like that before." Hei-yun smiled as she cleaned her coffee equipment for the next morning. "I just served them a cup of coffee," she said. "Just coffee, but they're saying they discovered something revolutionary." "Sometimes," Hei-yun said, carefully putting away her favorite blue cup, "the simplest things are the most special. My grandmother used to say that." As the sun set over her coffee farm, Hei-yun looked at the plants her family had tended for 3 generations. Maybe Earth wasn't as unimportant as the Federation thought. Maybe they just hadn't taken the time to really see what Earth had to offer. She picked a ripe coffee cherry from one of her plants and smiled. Soon, the Federation would learn that sometimes the most amazing discoveries can come in the simplest forms, like a perfect cup of coffee on a quiet morning. The next few days would change everything. But for now, Hei-yun just enjoyed the peaceful evening on her farm, knowing that tomorrow morning would bring another perfect cup of coffee, and perhaps the beginning of something extraordinary. The Federation Embassy in Seoul was holding its most important meeting of the year. The trade minister, a tall being named Taiho, had arrived from the Federation capital to discuss Earth's role in galactic commerce. His deep blue skin and flowing silver robes made him look like a living piece of art. Jai-Ho Park, a young diplomatic aide, stood quietly in the corner of the grand meeting room. He watched as Earth's representatives tried to interest the trade minister in their planet's resources. Nothing seemed to impress him. Basic metals, simple agricultural products, primitive digital systems, Jai-Ho said, waving his hand dismissively. Your planet has nothing unique to offer the Federation markets. Jai-Ho felt his heart sink. He had hoped this meeting would help Earth gain more respect in the galaxy. Instead, it felt like another failure. As he stood there, feeling disappointed, he remembered the package Hei-Yun had given him that morning. Hei-Yun had visited the embassy earlier to deliver coffee for the staff. She had given Jai-Ho a special thermos of her newest blend. Share this with someone who needs to see Earth differently, she had said with a knowing smile. Jai-Ho looked at the thermos sitting on his desk across the room. The meeting was going badly anyway. What did they have to lose? He walked over, picked up the thermos, and began pouring the coffee into small cups. The rich aroma filled the room immediately. The trade minister stopped in the middle of his sentence about Earth's inadequate technology. His nose twitched, and his large eyes widened. What is that extraordinary scent? Jai-Ho demanded, turning to look at Jai-Ho. Jai-Ho bowed quickly. This is coffee, honored minister. It's a traditional Earth beverage. Bring it here, immediately. The room fell silent as Jai-Ho served the coffee. Even the Earth representatives looked nervous. They had seen so many Federation officials dismiss their planet's offerings that they expected the same response. Jai-Ho lifted the cup to his face and inhaled deeply. The coffee's aroma seemed to affect him physically. His blue skin took on a slight glow, like moonlight on water. When he took his first sip, he closed his eyes and remained completely still for several seconds. When the trade minister opened his eyes again, he looked different. The bored expression he had worn all day was gone. In its place was something that looked like wonder. This is remarkable, he said softly. I have never experienced anything like it. The complexity of flavors, the way it affects my senses. How is this not the first thing you presented to me? Ambassador Du Jin stepped forward. Minister, this is just a simple beverage our people drink in the morning. Simple? Jai-Ho interrupted. There is nothing simple about this. I can feel it activating pleasure centers in my brain that I didn't know existed. Who created this? That would be Hei-Yun Kim, Jai-Ho said. She runs a coffee farm on Jeju Island. Cancel my afternoon meetings, Jai-Ho announced. I must meet this Hei-Yun Kim immediately. 2 hours later, 3 Federation ships landed on Hei-Yun's farm. Hei-Yun was working in her garden, wearing her usual simple clothes and wide-brimmed hat. She showed no surprise at the arrival of such important visitors. The trade minister approached her and bowed deeply, something Federation officials never did to Earth citizens. Ms. Kim, he said, your coffee has opened my eyes to something extraordinary. Please, tell me everything about it. Hei-Yun smiled and gestured to her porch. Let me make you a fresh cup first, she said. Coffee tastes best when you drink it in the place where it's made. As Hei-Yun prepared the coffee, she told them about her family's history with coffee farming. Her grandmother had started the farm, choosing this specific location because the soil, climate, and altitude were perfect for coffee plants. Her mother had expanded the farm and developed special growing techniques. Hei-Yun had learned from both of them and added her own discoveries about roasting and brewing. The trade minister and his assistants listened with complete attention. They recorded everything she said and took samples of the soil, the water, and the air. One of them, a scientist named Sunwoo, became particularly interested in the coffee plants themselves. These plants have adapted to Earth's specific conditions, Sunwoo explained, examining a coffee cherry with his instruments. The combination of your planet's soil minerals, atmospheric composition, and solar radiation has created something unique in the galaxy. Hei-Yun nodded, Every coffee farm is different, she said. Even on Earth, no two places make exactly the same coffee. That's what makes it special. The Federation officials spent the entire afternoon at Heyun's farm. They tasted different types of coffee, learned about different brewing methods, and asked countless questions. The trade minister seemed to forget completely about his important schedule. As the sun began to set, Tae-ho turned to Heyun. "Miss Kim, I want to establish a formal trade agreement for your coffee. The Federation would be honored to share this discovery with the galaxy." Heyun took a moment before answering. She looked at her coffee plants, thinking about her grandmother who had planted the first ones. "I will agree," she said finally, "but with conditions. Coffee isn't just a product to sell. It's part of Earth's culture. It needs to be respected and prepared properly." The trade minister nodded seriously. "What are your conditions?" "First, the coffee must be grown here on Earth. These plants belong in this soil, under this sun. Second, we will teach your people how to prepare it correctly. No shortcuts, no mass production that ruins the quality. Third, the farmers who grow it must be treated fairly and paid well." Tae-ho agreed immediately to all conditions. "We will need teachers," he said, "people who understand coffee as you do." "I have a student," Heyun said. "Mi-kyung has been learning from me for years. She can help start a school for coffee preparation." That evening, after the Federation ships had left, Heyun sat on her porch with a cup of coffee. The sun was setting behind the mountains, painting the sky in beautiful colors. Her phone was full of messages. News had spread quickly about the trade minister's visit and what it meant for Earth. Jae-ho called her just as she was finishing her coffee. "Heyun, you won't believe what's happening at the embassy," he said excitedly. "The trade minister is telling everyone about coffee. He's calling it Earth's gift to the galaxy. Other Federation officials are already asking when they can visit your farm." Heyun smiled. "Tell them they're welcome," she said, "but remind them that good coffee, like all good things, takes time." She looked out at her coffee plants, which seemed to glow in the last light of day. Her grandmother had always said that coffee was magic, not because of any special powers, but because it brought people together and helped them see things differently. Now that magic was reaching beyond Earth, touching beings from distant stars, Heyun thought about how proud her grandmother would be, knowing that her little coffee farm was changing the galaxy's view of Earth. As night fell, Heyun began preparing for the next day. She would wake up early, as always, to tend her plants and brew her morning coffee. But now she would do it knowing that she was preserving something precious, not just for Earth, but for the entire galaxy. The stars began to appear in the sky above her farm. Somewhere up there, Federation ships were spreading the word about Earth's remarkable discovery. Heyun smiled, thinking about how sometimes the smallest things, like a perfect cup of coffee, could change everything. She picked a ripe coffee cherry and held it up to the starlight. Inside this tiny fruit was something that had finally made the Federation see Earth differently. Maybe they would learn that true advancement wasn't just about technology or power. Sometimes it was about taking the time to appreciate life's simple pleasures, like sharing a good cup of coffee with friends, even if those friends came from the stars. 1 month after the trade minister's visit, Heyun's peaceful farm had become the center of an interstellar sensation. Federation scientists worked in newly built laboratories near her coffee fields, studying every aspect of coffee production. Sunwoo, the xenobotanist who had first examined her coffee plants, led the research team. Heyun maintained her daily routine despite all the changes around her. Every morning, she still woke before sunrise to tend her plants and brew her perfect cup of coffee. The Federation scientists learned to wait until she had finished her morning ritual before asking their questions. Sunwoo spent many mornings sitting with Heyun on her porch, sharing coffee and discussing their discoveries. He had learned to appreciate the quiet moments as much as the scientific breakthroughs. "We found something remarkable," Sunwoo told her one morning. "Coffee affects different alien species in unique ways, but it brings pleasure to all of them. This is unprecedented in Federation science. Hei-yun nodded, sipping from her familiar blue cup. Coffee adapts to the drinker, she said. My grandmother always said that each person finds something different in a good cup of coffee. The Federation's research revealed that Earth-specific conditions created something impossible to replicate elsewhere. The combination of soil minerals, atmospheric pressure, and sunlight made Earth's coffee unique in the galaxy. Even more interesting was how the caffeine and other compounds in coffee worked together to create what the Federation called universal pleasure responses. News of coffee's effects spread quickly through the galaxy. Soon, ships from hundreds of worlds were arriving at Earth, all wanting to try this remarkable beverage. The Federation had to create special space lanes just for what they called coffee tourism. Mike Young, who had learned coffee making from Hei-yun for years, now led the newly established Galactic Coffee Academy in Seoul. The academy building combined Earth's traditional architecture with Federation technology, featuring both old-style roasting rooms and advanced alien learning systems. Today we have students from 30 different planets, Mike Young told Hei-yun during one of their weekly calls. Some of them traveled for months just to learn how to make coffee properly. They say it's worth the journey. The Federation designated Hei-yun's farm as the first interstellar heritage site on Earth. This meant her traditional farming methods would be protected and preserved. Other coffee farms around Earth soon received the same status, creating a network of protected coffee-growing regions. Hei-yun worked with Sunwoo to understand why coffee had such a profound effect on alien beings. They discovered that Earth's coffee plants had evolved to produce complex compounds that didn't exist anywhere else in the known galaxy. These compounds work together in ways that Federation science had never seen before. Your simple coffee cup contains more chemical complexity than our most advanced pleasure stimulants, Sunwoo explained, holding up one of Hei-yun's coffee cherries. And it's all natural, created by generations of careful farming. Earth's economy began to change as coffee became its most valuable export. But Hei-yun made sure that coffee farming remained true to its traditions. She worked with the Federation to create rules protecting small farmers and traditional growing methods. Coffee isn't just a product, she told a group of Federation trade officials. It's part of Earth's soul. We must protect the people who grow it and the land that creates it. The Federation agreed, establishing the Galactic Coffee Protection Act. This law ensured that Earth's coffee farmers received fair payment for their crops and that traditional farming methods would be preserved. It also protected Earth's coffee-growing regions from development or exploitation. One morning, 6 months after the trade minister's first visit, Hei-yun received an unexpected visitor. Ambassador Do-jin arrived at her farm just as she was finishing her morning coffee routine. "Ms. Kim," he said, bowing deeply, "I owe you an apology. When we first arrived on Earth, we thought we knew everything about what made a civilization advanced. We were wrong." Hei-yun poured him a cup of coffee, using the same careful movements she had learned from her grandmother. "Please, sit and drink," she said. "There's no need for apologies between friends." Do-jin sat on her porch, holding the cup with obvious respect. "The Federation has learned more from Earth's coffee than just new tastes and pleasures," he said. "We've learned that sometimes the simplest things contain the deepest wisdom." Hei-yun smiled. "My grandmother used to say that making coffee is like living a good life. You need patience, attention to detail, and respect for tradition. But you also need to be open to new discoveries." The Federation's scientific community continued to study coffee's effects. They found that regular coffee drinking improved mental clarity in most alien species. Some races discovered that it helped them understand other species' emotions better. Coffee became known as Earth's bridge to the stars because it helped different species communicate and connect. Sunwoo's research team made another fascinating discovery. They found that each coffee farm on Earth produced slightly different effects in alien drinkers. Coffee from Hei-yun's farm tended to create feelings of peace and clarity. Coffee from Brazilian farms often produced feelings of joy and energy. Ethiopian coffee was known for creating deep feelings of connection and understanding. Your planet has given the galaxy something it didn't know it was missing, Sun Wu told He-yun as they walked through her coffee fields one evening. Not just a drink, but a way to experience life more fully. He-yun stopped to check a coffee plant, touching its leaves gently. Coffee has always been more than just a drink, she said. It's a way of slowing down, of paying attention to the moment. Maybe that's what the galaxy needed. The Federation began including coffee cultivation and preparation in their diplomatic training. They found that sharing coffee helped make diplomatic meetings more productive and peaceful. Some alien races even started greeting each other with the Earth phrase, "Would you like a cup of coffee?" as a sign of respect and friendship. Mikeyoung's Coffee Academy grew rapidly, opening branches in other major coffee-producing regions on Earth. Students from across the galaxy came to learn not just how to make coffee, but how to appreciate the culture and tradition behind it. We don't just teach them how to brew coffee, Mikeyoung told He-yun. We teach them to respect the process, to understand the connection between the farmer, the land, and the final cup. Many of them say it changes how they see everything. 1 year after the trade minister's visit, He-yun stood in her fields at sunrise, just as she had done every morning of her life. The mountain fog rolled in as always, but now she could see Federation ships quietly waiting in the sky above, their lights twinkling like new stars. She thought about how much had changed and how much had stayed the same. Earth was no longer considered a backwater planet. Instead, it was known throughout the galaxy as the source of something precious and unique. But here on her farm, the coffee plants still grew as they always had, reaching toward the sun, creating their small daily miracles. He-yun picked a ripe coffee cherry and smiled. Sometimes, the greatest gifts come from the most unexpected places. Her grandmother had known this all along, tending these same plants, brewing coffee with patient care. Now the whole galaxy was learning what one small farm on a once overlooked planet had always known, that in a simple cup of coffee, you could find something truly universal. 5 years had passed since the Federation first discovered Earth's coffee. The planet had changed in many ways, but He-yun's morning routine remained the same. She still woke before sunrise to tend her plants and brew her perfect cup of coffee. The only difference was that now she often shared these quiet morning moments with visitors from distant stars. The Federation had officially changed Earth's status from Level 2 to Level 1, marking it as a culturally significant world. This hadn't happened because Earth developed better spaceships or weapons. Instead, it happened because Earth had shown the galaxy something it had never seen before, the art of taking time to appreciate life's simple pleasures. He-yun now served as Earth's first coffee ambassador, a position created by both Earth's governments and the Federation Council. She worked with Young-song, the head of the Intergalactic Coffee Council, to protect coffee's heritage while sharing it with the galaxy. One morning, as He-yun performed her usual coffee-making ritual, she had some special guests. The Federation's Supreme Council had sent its highest-ranking members to Earth for what they called a coffee pilgrimage. "Please, watch carefully," He-yun told them as she measured the freshly ground coffee beans. "Making good coffee isn't about rushing. It's about paying attention to each step." The council members, beings from 12 different worlds, watched in respectful silence. Some had tentacles instead of arms, others had multiple eyes or skin that changed colors with their emotions. But they all showed the same careful attention to He-yun's movements. "On my world," said one council member whose skin glowed like moonlight, "we have machines that can create any taste we want instantly. But nothing they make affects us like your coffee does." He-yun nodded as she poured the hot water in careful circles over the coffee grounds. "That's because coffee isn't just about taste," she said. "It's about the connection between the earth, the plants, the farmer, and the person drinking it. Each cup of coffee carries all of that with it." Sun Wu, who still led the Federation's coffee research team, had made remarkable discoveries about coffee's effects on different species. He found that coffee didn't just stimulate pleasure centers in alien brains, it helped create new neural connections. Species that drank coffee regularly became better at understanding each other's perspectives. Coffee has become more than a beverage, Sun Wu explained during one of his regular visits to He Yun's farm. It's becoming a tool for galactic peace. When different species share coffee, they communicate better. They solve problems more creatively. They show more empathy for each other. The Coffee Academy that Mai Kyung started had grown into a network of schools across Earth. Every major coffee-growing region now had its own academy, teaching students from hundreds of worlds. But they taught more than just coffee-making techniques. We teach them about Earth's culture, Mai Kyung told He Yun during their weekly video call. They learn about taking time to appreciate small moments, about the importance of tradition, about connecting with others. Many students say these lessons are as valuable as learning to make coffee. Earth's economy had changed dramatically. Coffee had become the planet's most valuable export, but not in the way many had expected. Instead of mass-producing coffee for quick profits, Earth had maintained He Yun's principles of careful cultivation and traditional methods. This made Earth's coffee even more precious to the galaxy. The Federation's annual cultural report now described Earth as the planet of 1,000 flavors. The report praised Earth for maintaining its traditional farming methods while sharing its gift with the galaxy. It noted that Earth had achieved something rare, keeping its soul while embracing a larger role in the galactic community. One day, He Yun received a special visitor, Du Jin Lee, the same cultural ambassador who had first announced Earth's Level 2 status years ago. He looked different now, more relaxed and thoughtful. "I remember how I first saw Earth," Du Jin said as they shared coffee on He Yun's porch. "I thought I was coming to help a primitive world develop. Instead, your world taught the Federation what real development means." He Yun smiled as she poured him another cup. "Sometimes the student becomes the teacher," she said. "My grandmother told me that's how life works." The Federation had learned many lessons from Earth's coffee culture. They discovered that not all advancement came from technology or power. Sometimes it came from slowing down, from paying attention to small things, from respecting tradition while remaining open to new ideas. Other Earth products began gaining attention in the galaxy. Tea from China and Japan, spices from India, chocolate from South America. All found eager customers among the stars. But coffee remained special, the first gift Earth had given to the galaxy. He Yun's farm had grown, but not in size. Instead, it had grown in importance. Federation scientists had built research centers nearby, studying how Earth's unique conditions created coffee's special properties. But they always respected He Yun's traditional farming methods, knowing that these methods were part of what made the coffee special. Tai Young Song, working with He Yun on the Intergalactic Coffee Council, helped create laws protecting Earth's coffee heritage. These laws ensured that coffee farming would remain sustainable and that farmers would be treated fairly. They also protected Earth's coffee-growing regions from development that might harm the delicate balance needed for perfect coffee cultivation. "We're not just protecting coffee," Tai Young told He Yun during a council meeting. "We're protecting a way of life, a way of seeing the world. The galaxy needs this as much as it needs the coffee itself." One morning, 5 years and 1 day after the Federation first discovered coffee, He Yun sat on her porch with Sun Wu. They watched the sunrise together, sharing a quiet cup of coffee as Federation ships moved silently overhead, waiting their turn to visit Earth's coffee farms. "Did you ever imagine this would happen?" Sun Wu asked, looking at his cup. "That something as simple as coffee would change the galaxy's view of Earth." He Yun thought about her grandmother, who had started this farm with nothing but hope and hard work. She thought about all the mornings she had spent tending the coffee plants, brewing perfect cups of coffee, sharing quiet moments with friends old and new. "My grandmother used to say that nothing is really simple if you look at it closely enough," He Yun replied. "Coffee isn't just a drink. It's a reminder to slow down, to pay attention, to appreciate what each moment brings." Maybe that's what the galaxy needed to learn from Earth. They sat in comfortable silence, watching the morning fog roll over the mountains. Above them, ships from 100 worlds waited patiently for their chance to visit Earth, to taste its coffee, to learn its lessons about taking time to appreciate life's quiet moments. Earth was no longer considered a backwater planet. Instead, it had become known throughout the galaxy as a place where wisdom could be found in a simple cup of coffee, where tradition and progress worked together in perfect balance, and where beings from any world could learn the art of slowing down and appreciating life's simple pleasures. He-Yun picked a ripe coffee cherry from a nearby plant and held it up to the rising sun. Inside this small fruit was something that had changed the galaxy's understanding of what made a civilization truly advanced. Sometimes, the greatest wisdom came in the smallest packages, shared over a carefully brewed cup of coffee on a quiet morning, on a once overlooked planet that had finally found its place among the stars.